J. Cole's The Fall Off is well on its way. Welcome back to the Voiceovers Podcast. I'm 24K Logan. So recently in an interview with The Breakfast Club, rapper Trey the Truth said this. He said, and he's talking about J. Cole, he said his album is coming, and when it does, it's probably going to shock a lot of people. So remember what I tell y'all. A lot of people form opinions on things and they don't fully know the situation. So when you take that into consideration, and also J. Cole releasing Might Delete Later earlier in the year, recently did the song Ruby Rosary and a Plate of Collard Greens with Dalit. When you take all of that into consideration, and J. Cole teasing the fall off for a while now, mentioning it throughout a lot of different songs, it's on its way, guys. It's really no secret, but I think we're getting closer. Now, how soon do I think the fall off will be here? Well, I'm going to say towards the tail end of 2025, or maybe the very beginning of 2026. We're left with 3 months in the year, and unless Cole pulls an out of the blue, surprising, unorthodox move, I don't see him releasing the fall off in 2024. Not saying that it's not a possibility at all, but I do think the chances are very slim to none at all. Especially when you considering that the main topic of discussion this year was the beef between Kendrick Lamar and Drake. And not that the beef would overshadow the fall off, because a lot of people believe that this is going to be J. Cole's last and final studio album. But I do think that to an extent, the beef, because it's been such a big deal this year, I just don't see why J. Cole would release the fall off this year. But if he does, I would be happy nonetheless. J. Cole is my all-time favorite rapper. I have him as a top 10 rapper of all time, regardless of what anybody else is saying. And that's really what I wanted to touch on in this video. Not just of how soon I think the fall off will be here, but why I think that this is arguably and probably is the most important album in J. Cole's career. Now, with that being said, we have to take into consideration everything that J. Cole has done throughout his career. This is a guy who went triple platinum with no features. Of course, I'm talking about 2014 Forest Hills Drive, right? And in my opinion, he has 6 studio albums, and none of them are bad. He has 6 studio albums and none of them are bad. None of them are even mid albums. Obviously some are weaker than others, but nonetheless, J. Cole has given us 6 projects of quality, and I would say 3 classics being Born Center, 2014 Forest Hills Drive, and For Your Eyes Only. And I think the off season, as time goes on, will be considered a classic, especially for this current decade. Now, the reason why I think that the off season is possibly J. Cole's most important album and the most important moment of his career, well, as I said earlier in the video, a lot of people believe that this will be his last and final album. I think that J. Cole will continue to be featured on songs with different artists throughout the years, but I don't think that he'll drop another album after the fall off. I think he'll go into more of a behind the scenes producer / CEO role, especially considering the fact that he has the Dreamville record label. I think that he'll be doing a lot of more things behind the scenes, but I don't see J. Cole releasing another studio album after the fall off is released. The fall off could even go down as one of, if not the greatest album, hip hop album, of course, of the decade. I think that speaks even more volumes as to how big of a deal this is. And while J. Cole has a body of work to back up people claiming him to be a top 10 rapper of all time, maybe even a top 5 rapper of all time, I think that even with that body of work, the fall off needs to be a very pleasing, very astonishing, and amazing album to cement those claims, or to cement those claims even more. Now, I think regardless of the fall off, I already have, as I said before, earlier in the video, I already have J. Cole as a top 10 rapper of all time. I think that he has a significant argument to be pushed towards the top 5 conversation when we're talking greatest rappers of all time. But I think that the Fall Off being a great album will cement that even more. And with Trey the Truth's recent comments, once again, I think we're at a point now where, since the beef between Kendrick Lamar and Drake is over, not that J. Cole fans weren't already anticipating the album, or just hip hop fans in general weren't anticipating the album, but I think that with the beef being over, we are able to focus more on music way outside and beyond the beef. And I think that the anticipation for the Fall Off has went up that much more, especially with Trey the Truth's recent comments in the Breakfast Club interview. Again, I think that we'll get it at the tail end of 2025 or the very beginning of 2026, but the Fall Off will indeed be one of the most, maybe the most important moment in J. Cole's career, when you're talking about his legacy and what he has contributed to hip hop, and how he'll be remembered as an MC, as a rapper in hip hop. J. Cole has never lost a touch of his lyricism. If anything, his lyricism has only gotten better throughout time. I do think that with the Fall Off, he'll go briefly into detail about his decision to drop out of the beef and why he made the decision that he made. But I think the majority of the Fall Off will be strictly about the bars, about the lyricism, and, you know, about his true mark and his true place as one of the greatest MCs of all time. I think that will be the main thing with the Fall Off, and J. Cole basically saying, hey y'all, this is my last album, this is my final curtain call, I'm giving you all I got, here it is. And that is why I think the Fall Off is J. Cole's most important album, and even more so, we know that it is coming. It is coming. It is no secret. But that'll do it for today, guys. I just wanted to briefly discuss my thoughts on what's been going on recently with J. Cole. A Plate of Collard Greens is a dope ass song, by the way. I mean, J. Cole, it's no surprise, but he went batshit crazy on that song. And shout out to Dalit. Dalit should get more credit as a lyricist as well. But I think with everything that's been going on this year, with J. Cole dropping Might Delete Later, and, you know, him being briefly mentioned in the beef, and the 2 recent songs that he dropped, of course, being Ruby Rosary and A Plate of Collard Greens, I think that the anticipation of the Fall Off has built up that much more, and we have yet to see what's coming. I'm going to continue doing more coverage on the Fall Off and just more J. Cole content in general. But I appreciate everybody for watching. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. We have plenty of content on the way. Comment down below, how much are you anticipating the Fall Off? Do you think it's J. Cole's most important album, most important moment in his career? Or do you think otherwise? And when do you think we will get the Fall Off? But thank you again so much for watching. And until next time, peace and love to everybody.